Hi, I'm Paul Kirch, President and CEO of Actus Sales Intelligence. Quirks Media approached me about being a part of their webinar, Think Outside the Booth, How to Increase ROI of Exhibiting. In my portion of the presentation, I break down the acronym WINS, where I show you an easy way to prospect and network, whether you're an exhibitor or an attendee. I hope you enjoy it.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Dan. I'm honored to be a part of this panel. I mean, I've been in the marketing research industry in some capacity for over 24 years, and probably 15 of those years I've done a lot of exhibiting, a lot of attending at conferences. So I wanted to take this a little bit beyond the booth because, I mean, I think everyone who exhibits faces the same challenges. Some of this is going to apply to exhibiting. Some of this is going to apply to the time when you're out there networking with everyone else at the event. So often when we come back from the event and we're doing our follow-up, we run into a situation where it's almost like you feel like nobody's out there listening, right? You're making your calls. Everyone was so excited at the event, and then you can't get any response. It can be a frustrating process, and if you're in a sales role, and there's a lot of expectation for you to make these events productive and create an ROI, or if it's your name on the company, you want to see some results from the event. And it can be a very frustrating process. There's a lot of reasons that I talk to people that say, well, we've stopped exhibiting, we've stopped attending because we're not getting any benefit out of it. And I would argue that a lot of that comes back to the approach. I have been in a lot of meetings in offices where I'll see a stack of business cards collecting dust on someone's desk. And, I'll often ask, well, where are those cards from, or how'd you collect those? A lot of times it's from events, and they'll admit that they haven't followed up on them like they should. So I want to take this and give you something memorable. And one of the ways to do that, in my opinion, is to give you a simple acronym to remember. We're going to talk about wins. Everyone wants more wins, right? When you're nurturing and prospecting these leads, it comes back to getting some results. So what are you going to do to get some more wins? So I call this the follow-up frustration wheel. Let's kind of walk through this. You come back from the event, and you're thinking, gosh, you got all these cards. They seemed excited. Some people are even going to tell you, yeah, call me. And they might even tell you, you know what? We got some opportunities to work together. We might even have a project for you. They tell you they're the decision maker. Then you get back. You're making these calls, or you're sending out messages, and all of a sudden they won't take your calls. Or it seems like that way. They seem like they're ignoring you. You find out that other people are deeply involved in the decision process. They might be a decision influencer, or they might even play less of a role in that. And quite frankly, the kiss of death statement, we're happy with our current supplier. You end up feeling, is this a waste of time? And there's a lot of companies that have moved away from putting their money towards exhibiting or towards attending because they don't see the ROI. But I think it's arguable that a lot comes back to approach. So I want to take you through a little bit different thought process than maybe you've used before. So we're going to break that acronym WINS down. So let's talk about W. Work the room. Look, I don't care if you're at a booth, if you're out networking, find a way to meet as many people as you can. Unfortunately, so many people go to these events and they go to their comfort zone. I've been to a lot of events and I know a lot of people. I've got a lot of friends that come to these events, and I would love nothing more than to just turn it into a fun event. And, I do find time to hang out with people that I'm close to, and we find some time for that, but the focus has to be on business. It has to be on the ROI, unless you're just there purely for the education piece. But this is a statement that a lot of people are not going to instantly get, but I'm going to walk you through that. I want you to limit your conversations to 5 minutes or less. Let's say you go up to 7 minutes. In a 60-minute time frame, if you could go from person to person, you could ultimately get up to 12 new contacts. Let's say you're at the networking event. Unfortunately, a lot of people will sit there and have a half-hour conversation with somebody, and then they'll go have a 20-minute conversation with someone else because it's comfortable. But if you can limit the conversations, so your goal and objective at the event should never be to accomplish everything. Your goal should be to set the foundation and to create an environment where they want to learn more about you. They want to work with you, because if you go deep about a deep conversation, you spend a half hour talking to somebody, maybe an hour. I'm not saying you never do that. I'm not saying there aren't situations where it makes sense. But a lot of times if you do that, what you're doing is you're in the moment getting them excited. But when they get back, they're bombarded with everything else. They're bombarded with other work, coworkers, following up on their own stuff. So it's more important that you focus on what are you going to do after you meet them. So a little pre-planning. If you pre-plan, if you have an attendee list, I mean, this is obviously valuable. You can reach out and set up meetings ahead of time. And you can also determine, are there prospects you want to meet? Are there some key prospects? If you can schedule meetings at the event or prior, it's an amazing opportunity. But once again, don't get so fixated on turning these into, really deep 2-hour-long meetings. I mean, like I said, there's going to be times where it makes sense. But focus on getting as many meetings set up as you can. I actually try and make a game of it. Especially if I'm with a coworker or if I'm with a colleague of mine, let's see who can collect the most cards, or let's see who can set up the most meetings. Now, you don't want to water this down. I mean, obviously, you're there to build relationships. You're there to earn trust and, be seen as valuable. But there's a great line from the movie Jerry Maguire, and I quote this a lot, and actually a good friend of mine uses it on me all the time. It's not show friends, it's show business. You're there for business. You're there to create ROI if the networking is important to you. Focus on meeting new people, and then focus on opening doors. So let's move forward to initiating the conversation. There's nothing wrong with being approachable. In fact, I encourage you, be approachable, be friendly. Make it an environment where, somebody does want to talk to you. But a lot of times, you're the one that needs to initiate the conversation. Show interest in them. And, I see this at networking events where you'll see people standing around just kind of waiting for someone to approach them or waiting for someone to talk to them. Make yourself approachable, but also focus on making the first move when you can. Don't wait for people to come to you. Be confident. I mean, that's a statement that you hear all the time, and it's often overused, but you need confidence in your products and services. If you don't believe in what you're selling, if you don't believe in why someone should work with you, you got to ask yourself, why are you there? So if you're confident that what you're providing provides value and it's going to benefit them, be confident. Have a strong message and go out and meet some people, and you'll find that you can create some real opportunities and open some real doors. But you got to have an objective, right? You need to know what you're trying to accomplish. What are you looking for? Maybe you're not there necessarily to sell a bunch of services, but you're looking for a solution. So if you know your objective, you can look for those things. And if your job or your goal is to be the person who serves other people, then know that going in, and that's your mission, right? You need to go in and approach people in a way that, look, I'm here to provide value to your life. Can you help them? Can they help you? That's what your objective is all about. But most importantly, if you don't get them talking, then it's often, collecting a business card can be valuable, but you need them to get into the conversation. So asking better questions. I mean, this is sales 101 anyway, but learning to ask questions, and more importantly, learning to actually listen. Now, you do need to know how to manage the conversation. I host a radio show and over in Dallas called Boss Academy Radio, and one of the things that I have had to learn the hard way is when I'm interviewing people, we've got a hard stop for commercial breaks. I need to be able to manage that conversation. So when you're managing the conversation and controlling that, you get 5 to 7 minutes you want to target. You want to meet as many people as possible. Learn to ask questions, learn about them, but let them know a little bit about you. But your objective, and how do you cut it off at 5 to 7 minutes? You can simply say, look, we're both here to meet a bunch of people. I want to talk with you further. Can we set up a time when we get back to talk? I want to make sure that we get an opportunity to discuss this further, but I want to meet some more people tonight. And, you do it in a respectful way. People almost never take offense to that. So listening skills, it's probably one of the most critical things in an event. So often you're fixated on trying to get your message across or trying to have fun. You forget to listen. You forget to listen for those opportunities. So Just keep them engaged and do what you can to get them involved in the process. All right. I'm a huge proponent of next step strategies. And next step strategies at networking events, conferences, in sales in general, or just in business should be always part of your process. What is the next step? At the event, your next step should be that follow-up meeting. You want to get on their calendar. And if you can do it right then and there, schedule it at the moment. See if they can pull out their calendar on their phone. Hey, let's get something on the calendar. Or I'm going to follow up with you on such and such day. And then do what you said you will do. Now, I'm a believer in having a good follow-up strategy as well. So one of the things that I recommend is, Steve Henke had mentioned that you get their business card and you write down their information or capture their information. And I agree with that. But one of the first things you should do is send them a follow-up message. If you can do it that night, great. Do it the next day, whatever. Send them a follow-up message and say, hey, we talked. You said you'd be open to talking on Tuesday when I get back. I'm going to call you. And let them know that you're going to do that. Let them know that you respect the conversation enough, and also it helps you stay top of mind. They're going to remember you more likely than just a business card. And then finding a way to keep them up to date on, we're gonna connect. You need to do some reminders. So if you accomplish the first two steps, which hopefully you did, sending them reminders saying, you said we could talk on such and such date. I want to just make sure that we've got that on the calendar. Do what you can to keep them engaged. Now look, when people get back from these events, there was a real high at the event, a real energy. A lot of times we connect with people and say, yeah, let's do business together. Wow, it was great, and you're excited about it. You get back, and you can't get them to respond. It's not rejection. Look, chances are their life just kind of took over. They came back to a mountain of work. They've got other project work they're dealing with. You just need to be respectful of that and understand that it's going to be part of your job to stay on their radar, stay top of mind, and wait for that moment when they're able to find time to talk to you. And persistence is key. So, let them know your plan. And if you have an agreement from them, which, if you did those first two steps and then you did the third step, you've got a verbal agreement from them, they're going to honor that at some point. It's most likely if you stay in touch and you're respectful of their time, that they're going to give you an opportunity to talk to them. So, selfless approach. Let's talk about making it about them and less about you. What is your why? Why should they do business with you? If you believe you're providing value, you believe that there's a benefit in them working for you, you kind of owe it to them to continue to try and talk to them. But one of the things that happens is people come back from these events and they neglect to follow up immediately. If you let 6 weeks pass, you let several weeks pass, well, it's almost like starting from fresh or even worse, because they're not going to necessarily remember you, and they weren't important enough to you to follow up immediately. So don't let a lot of time lapse. Reach out immediately. And then stay in touch with value. Look, if they're not ready to work with you, they don't have an instant need, stay in touch with value. Can you send them some other information? Maybe not even your product information. Maybe you find a press release or you find something on a competitor. Hey, I saw this and I was thinking of you. Stay in touch with value and give them reasons to see you as a resource. One of the best lessons I learned, Merrill Dubrow, I used to work under him at Harris Interactive and then at Mark Research, and he had instilled in us, he said, be a resource. And to me, that message has really, it transformed how I did business. I wanted to be seen as someone who was valuable to them, not just someone who was selling them. Take the commitment from the event as what it is. It's not a commitment to buy. You really need to ultimately earn their interest. And stay interested in them. If you're looking for a quick sale, it's probably not going to happen from these leads. You might get some, but for the most part, it's going to take time. So focus on building a relationship and help them feel like a priority to you. You need to stay interested in their business. All right, so let's recap this. Lead nurturing. It leads to more wins if you do it right. You work the room. You initiate the conversations. You develop a next step strategy, and then focus on as much of a selfless approach as possible. This isn't just for networking. This is for modern day sales. This is what works. But it really works well for events and capturing business cards and leads. So I want to thank you for obviously allowing us to talk to you about this today. We're going to be handing these decks to you, so you'll have all this information. You read more about me and who I am. But if you want to reach out, I'm going to share everyone's contact information. But I'm going to turn it back over to you, Steve, and I want to thank you all for listening in.